They brought him out as the sun rose, a man once feared, now reduced to a trembling shadow. Shackles cut into his wrists, his armor stripped away, his dignity gone. He had been a Persian general, proud and unyielding, but this morning he was nothing more than a spectacle of defeat. The square was alive with whispers and incense smoke, the scent of burning sandalwood mixed with sweat and dust. At the far end stood the executioner, not a man, but a beast, the royal elephant. Its tusks were capped in bronze, its forehead painted with crimson sigils. Its massive body loomed like a moving wall of flesh and power. To the Indian king who ordered this punishment, the general's death was more than vengeance. It was theater. The Persians had invaded his lands, burned his cities, mocked his gods. The general had led those armies. Now, his death would be the message. No empire stands above kings who command elephants. The general's eyes flicked to the crowd. Nobles in silk, peasants pressed shoulder to shoulder, soldiers holding back the tide of bodies. Some looked on with awe, others with pity. But none would help him. Not here, not now. His gods were far away. India's elephants had long been trained to execute prisoners. They were taught to crush bones but not kill too swiftly, to make death an art of dominance. The handlers called them the king's judges. They could tear men apart with their tusks or step down slow, savoring the audience's cries. The general was forced to kneel before the beast. His knees sank into the hot sand, trembling. A handler barked a command in the local tongue. The elephant's ears twitched. It lifted its trunk and brushed the man's head, as if scenting him, testing him. The crowd gasped when the trunk curled around his neck, but no blow came yet. The king wanted the moment drawn out. He wanted to see fear. The general met the king's gaze, blood running from his lip where he had been struck earlier. "You will remember this," he muttered. The king only smiled. The signal came, a soft whistle. The elephant's great foot rose. For a heartbeat, time froze. Then with a noise like snapping branches, it came down. The general's leg bent backward, bone bursting through skin. He screamed once, an animal sound that silenced the crowd. The handlers gave another signal. The beast stepped back, then forward again, this time on his other leg. More cracking, more screams. The sand turned dark beneath him. Still, he lived. Still, he breathed. His face twisted in agony, his teeth clenched so hard his gums bled. But that was just the beginning. The king commanded the beast to prolong it. The elephant's trunk lifted the man by his waist, tossing him down again like a broken doll. His ribs caved in under the impact. The crowd recoiled, some turning away, others too horrified to blink. The general's body was a ruin now. Yet he still moved, still looked skyward, blood bubbling in his throat. Some swore he whispered his god's name, others said he laughed, a bitter, mocking sound that carried through the square. Even in death, he would not kneel. The elephant was coaxed closer, its trunk swaying. It pressed its foot down upon his chest, not crushing yet, just enough to make him choke. The weight forced a thin scream from his cracked lungs. His vision dimmed. Above him, the king watched with calm satisfaction. Then came the final order. The handlers shouted and the elephant obeyed. One great motion, downward. The sound was wet, final. The general's body split under the pressure, ribs snapping like reeds. Blood and dust mixed on the ground as the beast stepped away. Silence fell. The king rose slowly. "Thus ends arrogance," he said to no one in particular. The courtiers murmured their approval, though many dared not look at the mangled corpse. The soldiers dragged what remained aside, the metal of his shattered armor clinking softly in the sand. The elephant was rewarded with fruit and garlands. Children reached out to touch its trunk, too young to understand what it had done. The beast's eyes were calm, almost gentle. It did not know that it had killed a legend, only that it had pleased its masters. Days later, Persian captives were forced to walk past the blood-stained sand. The message was clear: this is what happens to invaders. Some broke down in tears, others swore vengeance. The horror became a story carried along the trade routes, told in hushed tones in taverns and camps. Years turned to decades. The Persian Empire would rise and fall again, but the memory of the general's death endured. In India, kings continued the ritual of elephant executions, sometimes crushing thieves, rebels, or traitors underfoot. It was not just punishment, it was a symbol of total dominion. Centuries later, foreign travelers would write of it in disbelief, of how the beasts obeyed human cruelty with divine precision. But those who saw it knew the truth. It was not the elephant that was monstrous, it was the men who gave the orders, and so the general's name faded from memory, but his screams lived on in legend. The sand where he died became sacred to fear. Each retelling whispered the same truth, that the mightiest of men can be reduced to pulp beneath the foot of power. Was it justice or vengeance dressed in ceremony? Would you have faced the beast in silence as he did, or begged for mercy before the watching crowd? Thank you for watching. Tell me, does his death seem fair to you? And if you thought this story was horrific, wait until you hear about the young emperor, encased in lead and dropped in the sea. The brutal death of Alexios II of Byzantium.